Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. Let's talk 2026. Smash the like button. It's time for us to start getting into evaluating these prospects. We've already started it. We've got preliminary bakery scores with updated data through what we have so far this college football season, and we've got these guys ranked out. We've got the top 10 at every single position and then the top 5 at tight ends, and we're just going to introduce you to this class, talk about the strengths and weaknesses of it, what class it compares to the most, and what you should be doing with your picks and how your picks are going to look if you're drafting in this class. Again, drop a like, make sure you're subscribed if you play Dynasty, because we live and breathe Dynasty Fantasy Football. We're going to start the running back position for 2026 because this is where the 101 lives. The 101, again, lives at the running back position. You saw this last year with Ashton Jeanty. You saw this with Bijan Robinson in 2023. So, again, we just get another. Really, actually, we need to make a pact. This draft season, this analysis season, we're not going to use the word generational. We need to come up with a different term for it.
That's a great idea.
Let's use a different word. Do you have a different word? Whatever you want to call Jeremiah Love, he's how about Studley? He's the next Studley running back. I don't care what you call him. He's easily the running back one in this class. He's easily the 101 in this class as it sits right now in Superflex leagues, even as well, with a good quarterback class.
He's the next premier running back.
Premier. He is a premier running back prospect.
Yep.
And when you're looking at his bakery scores so far, with the data we have, production data we have so far this college football season, in first round draft capital, which right now, if you look at most mock draft databases, he's going in the mid first. He's going to be a first round running back prospect. Right now, his running back grade in the bakery puts him in a tier with Bijan, Todd Gurley, and then it's Jeremiah Love, Jeanty, Barkley, Gibbs, Elliott, and McCaffrey, and that's the purple tier. Right now, he is in the elevated purple tier, the revered purple tier. This is a very sacred thing to be in the purple tier, and so far he grades out as the third best running back ever to grace the bakery spreadsheets. And so, with Notre Dame this year, 284 yards, 3 touchdowns, averaging 5.5 yards per carry. It's been a mixed bag. They've played 2 very tough opponents in Miami and Texas A&M this year, and you've seen, different results. Struggled against Miami. Did okay against Texas A&M, and then against Purdue, because Purdue is absolute cheeks at everything they do. 19 carries for 157 yards, averaged 8.3 yards per carry, and had 2 touchdowns. And what you did see, you didn't see this against Purdue, but what you did see in these closer, more competitive games, in each of these games he had 4 receptions. Against Miami, 4 receptions for 26 yards, 4 receptions for 53 yards against Texas A&M. And so what we're looking at here is a premier running back prospect in Jeremiah Love. He is going to be the 101 in Dynasty Superflex drafts, rookie drafts, almost certainly. And so if you have the 101, you have right now your sights set on Jeremiah Love. Although there are, I think, at least one contender at the wide receiver position to get into that 101 this year. And obviously we'll talk about the strength of the quarterback class. But this class, when you are starting the discussion about 2026 Dynasty Fantasy Football rookies, it starts with Jeremiah Love. You need to know the name, and you need to be watching him when he's playing on Saturdays, because he is the premier running back in this class.
So Jonah Coleman's going to be our running back 2 in this class so far. He is, again, a step down from Jeremiah Love, but he's a step up from everybody else remaining in this class. Comfortably there in the green tier with a really, really solid bakery score. And this is with assumed day 2 draft capital. That's late day 2 draft capital. You give him second round DC instead of third round DC, his grade just goes up even more. Again, when you're talking about guys that are value or that are from a prospect perspective equivalent to a Jonah Coleman type, he is right there back to back with Devon Achane, Kenneth Walker, Josh Jacobs, Travion Henderson. Judkins is also in this tier as well. You've seen how good Judkins has looked without practicing literally all off season. He already looks like a great bell cow. You've got some goats in here as well. I mean, Derrick Henry, obviously. Caleb Johnson, the biggest disappointment so far to date in this greens here. But that still is TBD technically as well. So when you're talking about just hit rates in this tier, it's looking pretty good for Jonah Coleman, and we were pretty confident that he's going to be a solidified day 2 pick, and I think he's going to be able to maintain that hype heading into the offseason for 2026.
Then you get into this next tier of running backs here, and these are all kind of guys in the yellow tier, so some comparable guys to these guys in the bakery as it would grade out right now. It's a ginormous tier here, but you have guys like Cam Akers, Alvin Kamara, Najee Harris, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, James Conner, Trey Benson, A.J. Dillon, Cam Scatteraboo. So Bucky Irving, big tier here. Some hits, some misses. Obviously, as you go lower down the bakery, you get a lower hit rate. But we've got multiple guys in this tier that we actually need to talk about. So going off of Ryan's rankings, we've got Darius Taylor from Minnesota in this tier. We've got Nick Singleton from Penn State, Katron Allen from Penn State as well, and then Justice Haynes from Michigan. Let's talk about Nick Singleton first. Nick Singleton kind of ascended last year, where a lot of people were very low on Nick Singleton. Then he looked really good, and we're like, oh, actually, Nick Singleton could end up being for something for Dynasty Fantasy Football. And then he went back to school. And so far this year, 41 carries for 179 yards, 5 touchdowns. Again, that's in 3 games, 4.4 yards per carry for Nick Singleton so far. And again, looking at the splits for Nick Singleton in the receiving game so far in 2025, you have 5 receptions for 44 yards. He did have 41 receptions last year for 375 yards. You want to continue to see that with him. Now, his teammate, Katron Allen, because both of these guys are good prospects. I think Singleton projects better than Allen does. I think we're going to be higher on Singleton than we are Allen. But they are splitting this backfield. Think Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson from 2025. This is kind of the same thing. So Allen, 34 carries for 273 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's averaging 8 yards per carry in here. 8 yards per carry. But looking at his receiving upside so far this year, only 3 receptions for 5 yards. So none of these running backs have really gotten involved in the receiving game so far this year. And we're obviously going to want to see him have more of a receiving role like he did in 2024, where he had 18 receptions, 153 yards, and averaged 8.5 yards per catch. So both the Penn State boys are going to be relevant here. We're going to keep an eye on them. And again, in these different sets of rankings, Singleton is 4th in Ryan's rankings, but he's 3rd in the bakery right now. Katron Allen's 5th in Ryan's rankings, and he's 5th in the bakery. And then Darius Taylor. Obviously, Darius Taylor is going to be a my guy for Ryan because Ryan's a Minnesota fan. But for us, you can't deny Darius Taylor has a skill set that I think could very easily translate to the NFL at this point. He's 6 foot, 215 pounds. And last year, you saw him have 54 receptions for 350 yards. So far this year, he only has 5 receptions through 3 games. But if that continues to step up, last year he also rushed for almost 1,000 yards with Minnesota on 200 carries. And in the bakery right now, you're looking at him, he's firmly in that yellow tier with 4th-round draft capital. You give him 3rd-round draft capital, and he jumps up a little bit more. You give him 2nd-round draft capital, and he's up there with Darius Taylor. So obviously these running backs are going to be very draft capital dependent. But that really is the next tier of running backs here in the bakery so far. Singleton, Taylor, Allen, and then we'll talk about Justice Haynes here. I'll lump him in real quick because he's the next highest ranked guy in the bakery so far. And Ryan has him at 6. The bakery has him at 6. Justice Haynes also another Ryan Bread my guy for this season. But with Haynes, Michigan looks better this year from an offensive standpoint. And so far he has 66 carries for 537 yards. He's averaging 8.1 yards per carry as a junior. It's 6 touchdowns so far for Michigan as well. When you're looking at the game splits, this is you're impressive every game here. They've played 4 games. He's been over 100 yards each of these games. The first game against New Mexico, 159. Second game against Oklahoma, 125. So good competition there, SEC competition. The 13th against Central Michigan, 104, and then Nebraska, 149 yards. Straight up, he's averaging 8 yards per carry. He is performing very well, and I think if you continue to see his statistics move in the right direction, that you're going to see him move up boards. Because right now we have different draft capital for different guys in this tier. A lot of these guys are 3rd to 5th round draft capital projected, and again, they're all in that yellow tier. And so I want to comp this running back class to the running back class of 2023, where you had Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, and then you had Achane in that green tier. So similar to this year, you have Jeremiah Love, and then you've got right now Jonah Coleman in the green tier, and then you've got like 4 or 5 yellow guys. And you'll remember, the 2023 class was running back, all right, wide receiver, all right, quarterback, heavy, right? And so we'll see. But right now, this running back class looks like it has the potential to be solid with a couple of really solid guys. And again, I want to stress this. Everybody was saying, oh, this 2026 class sucks and nobody likes it. And we said at the time where we were talking about these picks, there are going to be guys that jump up in these rankings that we don't even know about yet. Case in point, Jonah Coleman. We evaluated him last year. His bakery score wasn't good. He wasn't on the radar of many NFL teams. He went back to school, and now he is projected as a very good prospect in the bakery. So it goes to show with this running back class, you need to, and with this class in particular, you just need to be a little bit careful. And I'll just finish out the running backs here real quick with the last guys. The last guys on our list here, Le'Veon Moss. I love Le'Veon Moss. I loved him last year. I wish he would have come out. Texas A&M. He's had a good start to this year. We've got Demond Claiborne, I think is how you say his name, from Wake Forest. Quintravion Wisner from Texas, and CJ Baxter from Texas as well. So 2 guys there that both of them play for Texas, but kind of similar to the Penn State thing. We've got 2 guys that are going to be relevant prospects. That's in Ryan's rankings. You got Kyson Brown from Arizona State. That has to be on everybody's radar as well. And so those are that's a pretty good glimpse of the running back position so far in 2026. But what you really need to know is those top 6 guys so far looks very comparable to that 2023 class for running backs. You got Love, you've got Coleman, you've got Singleton, Taylor, Allen, and Haynes. And then it's probably the field at this point. But it does look like, again, Love and Coleman will be first-round dynasty picks. And Singleton, Taylor, Allen, and Haynes, with the right draft capital and situation, could sneak into the end of the first in dynasty. So far, really, I think we've got 2 or 3 locked-in running backs for the first-round dynasty. That makes up about a quarter of our dynasty first round. Let's talk about wide receivers now.
So at the top of the wide receiver board this year, and I think it's going to settle this way as well because he's a tier above everybody else at the moment, is Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. He really drew a lot of eyes last year while Arizona State went on that run. And he's really followed that up, honestly, with just a phenomenal start to the season. I mean, all eyes are on him right now, and he's really lived up to the hype at this point. Looks like another premier talent who's going to be easily solidified in the first round of the NFL draft next season. And he's right there in the blue tier by guys like Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown, Drake London, JSN, that elite level tier, not in the purple tier with some of those other guys like J. Jeff, Neighbors, Chase, etc. But again, we didn't have anybody in that tier this year either, or in 2025 for the wide receiver class. And you've seen, again, a good number of these guys below that tier can still be premier elite cornerstone assets in no time. And I do think Jordan Tyson does have that build. I think he has that skill set, that ability to really be a phenomenal prospect. He just has to continue to produce and perform at the level that he's done early this season in college football, and he'll pretty much solidify himself in that range. And then Mekhi Lemon, who's actually my guy for Ryan, is really showing out this year. He actually, interestingly enough, didn't really do much through the first couple years of his career, or really the first year of his career. In 2023 at USC, he really didn't get much usage at all. He only had a few catches. He was just kind of buried in the depth chart. Last year was really his coming out party. Broke out as a sophomore, 760 receiving yards on 52 receptions. He was expected to have like a really solid season this year, hopefully have like 1,000-yard season. And he's already well on pace to do much more than that. But in his matchups so far this season, I mean, he's had games of 150, 120 receiving yards, 7, 4, 5, and 8 receptions. 2 of those being Big Ten games against Purdue and Michigan State. So like solid enough competition where it's like, okay, this is legit. One of those 100-yard games came against Michigan State. So I think Mekhi Lemon in the Big Ten right now for USC is looking to really solidify himself as probably the wide receiver 2 in our eyes, and where we're going to be ranking him as well this season. And when you're looking at where he lies, is that green tier below where Jordan Tyson is right now. He's right by Olave, DK Metcalf, Xavier Worthy, Burks, Ridley, McMillan, Bateman, Judy Odunze, BTJ, right? This is a big tier, a good size green tier with a couple of guys that like didn't perform to the level that you had hoped, but a lot of them really are just so insulated and have been productive for multiple years over time. And I think we're going to expect that from Mekhi Lemon as well. If he can maintain this production, there's going to be a lot of hype for him heading into the offseason.
The next guy that's actually in the tier with Mekhi Lemon right now, in this green tier that Nathan just talked about, who has been moving up in recent weeks, is Denzel Boston. Now, Denzel Boston is somebody that we had our eye on before the season. He's not necessarily moving up our rankings. He's moving up the Bakery rankings here. I think Ryan has him as the wide receiver 4 in this class. The Bakery, though, it's got him above Carnell Tate. In fact, a full tier above Carnell Tate right now, which is saying something, because I think Carnell Tate is a prospect that could go fringe first round in the NFL draft. But with Denzel Boston, I mean, this is kind of the next good Washington wide receiver. He's an elite separator. He's a willing blocker. The one thing that, analytically he has a knock on so far is his efficiency this year, but his ADOT has been super high, and I think part of that is because they've faced, lackluster competition as they play better teams. They've played, they played some, they played at least one Big Ten game, I think, but as the competition gets better, I think that's going to go up. And what you've seen is actually he's already, since we even did the write-up on him, he's actually moved up in the Bakery. And so right now with Denzel Boston, I mean, what you've seen from him so far this year in multiple games, for example, just played Washington State. They actually haven't played a Big Ten game because they've only played 3 games. I forgot they had a bye week. 6 receptions for 170 yards, 7 yards. But again, averaged 17.8 yards per catch in that game. It had 2 touchdowns in that game. So not the stiffest competition so far for Denzel Boston. However, the season-long trajectory for him it looks really good. 6'4", 209 pounds is what we have him at right now. When you're talking about his type of build here, he's a deep threat type guy. He's a very good separator. He's going to be lined up out wide, and so one of these bigger out wide, deep threat wide receivers that we've seen here is what Denzel Boston's archetype is in terms of his wide receiver play skill set. So, I mean, with Boston, he's somebody that if he does maintain this pace in terms of his analytics, he is in a very good tier. That green tier is very good with hit rates in the bakery. And so that would honestly add to the class. And right now, Nathan talked about Mekhi Lemon. I mean, with Tyson. So what we have here is at least 2 running backs, maybe 3 in the first round. And then we've got probably 3 receivers to Tyson, Lemon, Boston, and then I would go as far as saying Carnell Tate should be in there as well. Yeah. And so we're up to 7 total of our first rounders here being wide receivers and running backs.
Jeremy Bernard will be fringe as well.
I think so too. Yeah. And now a lot of people are going to say, and he's going to be climbing as well. I think he's lower in the bakery. He's going to keep moving up. And so really it's those fringe running backs and wide receivers that we're going to need to see. But this is kind of the other very strong. This is the other very strong. What happens when you give Bernard? He's already got first round draft capital. So
Eric Singleton actually is very interesting here because we've got him projected very conservatively with day 3 draft capital. And you give this guy anywhere day 2, actually second round, he goes up into that green tier with Mekhi Lemon and Denzel Boston. He's out of Auburn. He's getting a good amount of hype and eyes as well. He's kind of an elite earner type of separator as a route runner. So the big knock against Singleton and why the range of outcomes for him in his draft capital, potential draft capital, is so wide, so volatile, is because he is like super athletic, but he's really, really small. He does not have a great build. He's what's his
180 pounds.
180
he's 5'10", 180 pounds. So, but he's projected around 4.3 at the combine.
Yeah, and if he does that, then I think he'll easily solidify himself into probably the second round.
I mean, 180 pounds isn't bad, and so
no, it could be worse.
I'm gonna talk. I'll talk about Carnell Tate and Jacoby Lane, and I'll let you take the Concepcion Surratt next tier here. But Carnell Tate, I mean, I think Carnell Tate could end up going in the first round of the NFL draft. And right now we haven't projected first round draft capital, but he's in that yellow tier. When you give Jacoby Lane first round draft capital, he jumps up into the green tier. And Jacoby Lane is somebody who could get up into the first round. Obviously, he's the teammate of Mekhi Lemon. So in terms of analytics, those guys could end up kind of vulturing production from each other. So far, only 9 receptions this year, but for 239 yards. He's averaging 26 yards a catch here, and he's had a touchdown. You saw this in the game against Purdue. He had 3 receptions for 115 yards, 3 receptions for 91 yards in his second game. So he's literally putting up Randy Moss stat lines here. And so, his analytics aren't bad. And again, his analytical profile is pretty good. He like, kind of like we just talked about with Denzel Boston, he kind of has the same archetype here. Somebody who's going to line up out wide and be more of a deep threat here. When you're looking at his size, he's 6'4", 200 pounds, so a little bit of a skinnier guy, but he is fast, I think, for a guy his size. It's going to depend on what he runs at the combine, but we're going to have to see. I don't think the separation is very good for him. He does lie in that tier again with Carnell Tate, Jeremy Bernard, Eric Singleton Jr., and so that's kind of that next tier of wide receivers there, where when you look at the hit rates in that tier, it's a complete mixed bag. You have great guys there like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ladd McConkey, Michael Pittman Jr. Last year you had Matthew Golden in this tier, Luther Burden was in this tier, Emeka Ibuka just came out of this tier. Not a bad tier, but a bunch of wild cards in here. And then there are some promising guys, but honestly, these guys we don't expect much from because this tier is pretty bad.
Yeah, there's only so high that they can go. And again, analytically, when you're looking at this tier, just when you're talking about historical hits, it's not very good. Elijah Surratt is obviously our favorite player in this tier. The reason he's going to be stuck in this tier is because of kind of his career trajectory in college, where he transferred twice. He was in D2, and then he comes to IU, and then he stays an extra year. He's going to be 23 years old by the time that he declares for the draft. But I mean, in terms of college level production, the production is definitely there. I wouldn't call him an elite route runner necessarily. He's actually labeled here in the bakery as a poor separator. And I don't think that, I don't really think that he's bad at separation. I just do think that more his skill set is going to be kind of a big play type of guy, contested catch situations. His nickname's Waffle House because, self-labeled, he's always open. But he is kind of, even when you're talking about game by game, sometimes he's just not implemented. He's not really in the game plan. And then sometimes he gets like 9 targets, 9 receptions, and just goes insane. So a little bit inconsistent there, but we love Surratt. Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M, also going to be in this tier. We'll keep eyes on him as Texas A&M really has been exceeding expectations, obviously beating Notre Dame this last week, looking solid there. And then Nick Harbor out of South Carolina, he's kind of the number one guy for Lenora Sellers there, who we're going to talk about here in the QB version of the bakery, which is brand new. But with Nick Harbor, there's a route for him to go up as well. Currently in the bakery, given like 3rd round draft capital conservatively, he could move up a few spots if he gets 2nd round draft capital, but he'll still be in this orange tier.
Now we get into the meat and potatoes of this class and kind of what's going to fill out the first round of Dynasty rookie drafts in 2026, because there are multiple QBs here projected to go in the first round. And if these guys do go in the first round, they're obviously in Superflex leagues going to be high-end Dynasty picks. I do still think you're going to see people favor running backs and wide receivers over these guys, similar to what we saw last year. But this quarterback class, we debut here. Ryan debuts. He has been working on this. This has been his passion project this offseason, the quarterback bakery. We've never had one before. It's version 1.0 for the quarterback bakery, because he really has been working pretty hard on getting this dialed in. And in my opinion, when you're looking at the overall results of this, he's done a pretty good job here. And it definitely, he's onto something in terms of the hit rates of the tiers. He's been dialing it in. I think it's good. The number one quarterback in the bakery for 2026 and my number one quarterback at this moment is Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. A lot of you guys are going to be like, what the heck? You've got Sellers. Well, Sellers has been mid. You've got John Mateer from Oklahoma. I think you can make a better argument for Mateer than almost anybody on this list at the moment. You've got Drew Aller, who's not been great. You've got Garrett Nussmeier, who's been mid, in my opinion. Cade Klubnik has been bad. Carson Beck has looked better, but his analytical profile is going to have to, propel him up. Fernando Mendoza is a great prospect, in my opinion. In fact, I've seen multiple, you've seen first round and top 10 buzz for Fernando Mendoza in NFL circles for probably the last month and a half, but especially after against a top 10 team in Illinois, he comes out and he only plays 3 quarters and he throws 5 touchdowns. He's hyper efficient. His statistics this year are off the chart. He looks ridiculous. I mean, I sat field level at the Illinois IU game. I've watched him in every game in person this season, but I sat field level and watched this guy. Fernando Mendoza is an NFL quarterback, you guys. And I think he's a sleeper to be the number one overall quarterback in Dynasty Fantasy Football next year. And I think he's a sleeper to be the number one quarterback prospect in the draft. Now, as of right now, of course, I think people are going to give the nod to Sellers, which I would agree with probably, and maybe John Mateer, just depending on how things materialize with all of these guys here down the stretch. However, I'm not necessarily buying that Garrett Nussmeier is a clear tier above Fernando Mendoza at this point. Mendoza is, more of a distributor type of quarterback, but we have seen those types of quarterbacks be very successful in the right situation in the NFL recently. He's not going to go win you a game with his legs, but at the same time, he's got NFL size. He's 6'5", 225 pounds. He's extremely accurate. And a lot of people, the big knock on Fernando was they hadn't played anybody yet. Well, again, they just played pretty tough competition. They're going to be at Iowa, at Penn State, at Oregon. You're going to see Fernando Mendoza.
We'll learn a lot.
We're going to learn a lot about him, and my guess is he's going to perform. He's been put in a great situation in the best college football program in the country right now at IU. And if he actually becomes this relevant, I'm probably going to be really playing Dynasty with my heart. I'm going to draft him everywhere. I won't be able to handle. I love him so much. He's Ryan's quarterback 4, which Ryan can ligma. But in the bakery, he's a clear tier above everybody else right now. Great, but a lot of it's because the stats have been really good. We've got to see him over the full season. I think he's a dark horse at the moment, but I had to talk about him because he's my guy, and because he is first in the bakery. But let's talk about Lenore Sellers next.
There are a number of controversial QBs that I kind of want to talk about all at the same time here, because you're going to have any one of these guys ranked at number 1 for a bunch of different groups of Dynasty people. And right now, Garrett Nussmeier, at least for Ryan, is his number 1 ranked QB in this class, despite him being multiple tiers or a tier below guys like Fernando, Sellers, Dante Moore in this class from IU, South Carolina, and Oregon. The nice thing with Nussmeier is he's the most experienced by far. He's in a situation where he's really, admittedly, he's developed quite significantly. I think you can even admit, like, he's looked better even this year compared to when he did last season. He stayed for a reason. He was getting some potential late first round buzz if he were to declare last year. And now I do think this is probably going to solidify him in the first round, most likely, if he continues this. But he looks fine. It just you just wonder what his production upside really is going to be, and it's all going to be about landing spot, honestly, if he ends up going early in the draft. And then you have Lenora Sellers, who really is your upside play. And at this point in time, with what's going on with the quarterback market in Dynasty Fantasy Football, this is why I favor Lenora Sellers so much over pretty much the entire field, with the exception of Fernando, because I'm partial. But with Sellers, yes, he's been mid this year. If anyone watches those games, and if you guys watch Lenora Sellers, have been keeping an eye on South Carolina this year. They've already lost 2 games. It's been a disappointing first few weeks for them. His talent is undeniable. He is literally, from a prospect perspective, in terms of accuracy, decision-making, what he's able to do within the structure of the pocket and out of structure as well, is still like, I think it's a much more mature, like, better version of what you saw from Anthony Richardson at Florida. You remember Florida that year went like 6-6, and he was very inconsistent all across the board. And, you know, a guy like that, just because of his traits, ends up going pretty high in the NFL draft. And when you're talking about fantasy football alone, if Lenora Sellers goes anywhere in the first round next year of the NFL draft, he's probably the number 1 quarterback in Dynasty Fantasy Football when you're talking about the rookie prospects here, unless Fernando goes like top 2 or 3. And that's something that I don't think you can deny, because, again, look at the quarterback landscape right now in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Who are the guys that are consistently being elevated above everybody else, and who are the guys that are quickly moving up boards? It's the guys that have rushing upside. Everybody else is so volatile. They're falling down like Stroud. They're falling down like Dak and Goff. They're falling down like McCarthy. And you have other guys like Herbert who shoot up after he's been plummeting for the last 2 years. Quarterback is more volatile than any other position, with the exception of running back in Dynasty right now. And that's just the reality. The guys who have the highest floor are those rushing upside QBs, and no one is more athletic, no one has higher upside, and no one just shows that elite level opportunity on the ground that Lenora Sellers does show for you. So I'm going to just default by giving him the nod over guys like Garrett Nussmeier and Drew Aller as well, who I wanted to mention here. Drew Aller also does show some rushing ability. I don't think he has the rushing upside that a guy like Sellers does have. He is mobile, though. I think of all the QBs that we've seen so far in this season, Aller is the most unknown. Where really we're going to learn a lot with this game against Oregon this week. How much has he taken a step up in terms of decision-making consistency that he showed last year to this season? I think we're going to learn a lot at that point, and that'll really help us with where we want to rank him in future weeks. But for now, Aller, I do think, is promising as well. He was someone that people were looking at, had eyes on, very similar to Nussmeier. Hey, this guy could sneak into the first over time if he does declare in 2025. He comes back, tries to develop his draft stock and boost it, and I think he'll be capable of doing that for sure.
One guy that we do need to cover here from a quarterback position standpoint, somebody who's not really been on our radar until now, it's Dante Moore from Oregon. He has been very good this year. When you're looking at some of his bigger games here, he had 300 yards against Oregon State and threw for 4 touchdowns. Against Oklahoma State, obviously they killed Oklahoma State and they had ran the ball a lot. Still 266 yards, 3 touchdowns. Right now he's Ryan's quarterback 4 in his rankings. In the Bakery, he's actually in the same tier, in that green tier with the other guys in there like Fernando Mendoza and Lenora Sellers at the moment. And so realistically, I mean, it's Dante Moore, I think, has a decent shot of being a guy that sneaks in the first round, but he's going to have to maintain this level of production throughout the entire season. So we'll see about that. Dual threat quarterback John Mateer from Oklahoma.
I saw a little bit of an Oklahoma game. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, he is fun to watch.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think him and Mendoza are the Heisman favorites at the moment. He's a junior. He's 6'1", 224 pounds. You saw him against Michigan throw for 270 yards. He had 1 touchdown. Against Illinois State in the first game, he had 392 yards and 3 touchdowns. Against Auburn, 271 yards and 1 touchdown again. So he's actually been playing fairly well here. 1,215 yards so far in 4 games, 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions for John Mateer. Now, really, he's had a good start. He doesn't really have great advanced passing stats, so his PFF advanced grades aren't great so far. A lot of what is carrying his profile right now is his rushing production, and as Ryan says, a lot of YOLO ball. But he is fun to watch, and so he's worth mentioning as well. And a lot of times NFL franchises like stuff like that, and so maybe you see him become relevant as well. Obviously, he's having a great season in college football. And then I just want to touch on Arch. Arch has been bad. I mean,
Arch is not declaring, guys.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
And if he does, he's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
It's worth mentioning. Carson Beck has looked a lot better this season, but his bakery grade's still pretty low right now.
Carson Beck
He'll continue to climb, I think.
I mean, he looks like a surgeon this year so far. He looks pretty good.
Yeah, so it's worth mentioning him for sure. He's pretty much had a resurgence, but he really only had that one bad year, and so we'll see if this continues. Cade Klubnik has been bad this season. He was projected to 101 for a lot of people, but I think that's mostly Nussmeier now / Sellers, and even then I'm not buying either of those guys, which is why I'm higher on Mendoza than a lot of people. But he's fallen a lot, to be honest with you.
Sam Levitt.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's been okay so far this year. He needs to find somebody else to throw to besides Jordan Tyson, who's a dog, but he does need to find somebody else to throw to there. He does add utility as a runner or scrambler, but Ryan thinks he might go back, and so there is that as well. But he right now is in that orange tier as well as somebody that's going to be on our radar. This class doesn't really comp very well to any classes. When you're looking at 2025, there was obviously a very good prospect in Dart, and then Ward was in that green tier, and then a huge drop-off. In 24, it was a bunch of really elite guys, and then so the top 5 were really good, and you won't see that this year.
Yeah.
In 2023, it was two guys in the green tier and one in the yellow tier.
You'd probably want to comp it to the 2023 as a whole when you're talking about cross-positionally. It's very top-heavy. You have a lot of really, really good guys, and then it's TBD. We'll see.
But 2023 fell off quicker than this class. It was Stroud, Young, Richardson, Levis, and then Max Dugan, Hendon Hooker, Clayton Tune. So it's honestly, there are more wild cards in those middle ranges this year. Any of these guys in the middle range here, Mateer, Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, Dante Moore, all those guys could perform. I think it's
going to come down to who actually declares.
And it's going to come down to who produces the rest of the season. We have a lot to learn about the QB class.
And the ones who produce the rest of the season are the ones who are going to declare.
That's pretty much the case. We know Mendoza is coming out, though, and he's probably the 101 in Dynasty forever. He'll probably be the 101. He'll probably go
over Jeremiah Love.
He'll probably go over Josh Allen and Lamar here in startup drafts. And so this is a Fernando Mendoza channel, by the way, and it always will be.
Yeah, they're going to get a lot of propaganda out of us.
It's going to be awesome.
Season.
And legitimately, he's good. I think people are sleeping on him. I do think he's underrated.
I mean, he's the best quarterback in college football right now.
He absolutely is. He should be the Heisman favorite in betting lines. He is the Heisman favorite a lot of places. Yeah. All right, real quick tight end look here real quick. There's a couple decent tight ends this year. It's nothing crazy, but I just want to compare it. There are 4 guys last year in the green tier. There's only one this year. It's Eli Storrs from Vanderbilt. He's a redshirt senior. 235 pounds, so he's got the size. 6'4". He is projected right now in the second round. If you give him first-round draft capital, he stays in that green tier. Max Clare from Ohio State, somebody you have to talk about. Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon. Both guys I think are going to go in the top 3 rounds for sure. And then outside of that, we only have 2 other guys here. Jack Indries from Texas, and then Terrence Carter Jr. from Texas Tech. Jack Indries was a transfer from California. He has been decent for that Texas offense that has been a little bit disappointing. Terrence Carter Jr. is another transfer. He's been efficient. He's been pretty good after the catch for Texas Tech, and so we will see with this tight end class. But I think you're probably only counting on
Sadiq so far.
He's
very athletic.
He is. I think you probably only count on one of these tight ends being a fringe first rounder this year. It's not really.
Yeah, it's not super strong.
Deep. So. That's a lot to digest, but hopefully the comps to other prospects help. And I will just add this disclaimer at the end. We're putting out 10 videos a week between the 2 channels right now. We are watching as much college football on Saturdays as we can, but we are working so much that we have not had time to really, really dive into the most recent film on these guys because the film's not really available. You have to try to catch stuff live.
And we're going to keep you updated on risers. So, we're not going to do this format every single time, but we are going to keep you updated on, hey, keep an eye on this guy that we didn't mention in this initial video because, again, this is the first 3-4 weeks of college football. There's going to be a lot of movers from here on out, so get ready for that because it's going to get real interesting and real fun.
All right, so make sure you drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Make sure you're subscribed as well. Again, we'll have more accurate and more in-depth information for you as we get used to this rookie class. We are just starting analyzing these guys, and a lot has already changed with the season, so take everything with a grain of salt. But I will say, looking at this class, it doesn't necessarily look any weaker than
looks-
your average class. Like it
looks
looks
fine.
like your average rookie class. I don't.
It's totally fine.
There are great players in this class.
Yeah.
There are some solid players in this class. There are some guys with upside. There are some good quarterbacks. It's
There are-
what you see in the
there are
Dynasty.
fringe guys.
Like that's what it is. But it doesn't look like terribly awful like everybody was saying. So don't buy that. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you later.